Good morning, everyone. I'm Chairman Freeman. I'd like to call a meeting of the Local Government Committee to order. And if we could start with the roll call. Christina?
Chairman Freeman,
Here.
Representatives Borowski,
Vote by designation.
Serrato,
Vote by designation.
Donahue. Here. Fleming,
Vote by designation.
Hambidge,
Vote by designation.
Kazim,
Vote by designation, though we are anticipating she'll be coming later.
Madsen, Monroe,
Vote by designation.
Probst, Prokopiak, Salisbury,
Vote by designation.
Sappy,
Vote by designation.
Smith-Waddell.
Vote by designation.
Chairman James.
Present.
Representatives Banta, Fink, Fritz, Jones, Kuzma, Miller, Rader, Rinkavage,
By designation.
Watro, Wentling.
Okay, quorum being present, we can conduct our business. First, I'd like to turn to Chairman Lee to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
Overstate.
That sounds good. Before we get into today's agenda, I did want to recognize Grace Tanner. Grace is our intern in the Local Government Committee. She is a native of North Cornwall Township in Lebanon County, recent graduate of Temple University, majoring in political science, minoring in public policy, and is participating in the House Fellowship Program this summer. And as I mentioned, she is assigned to our office. Grace, you want to stand? Good to have you on board. Let the record show that we've been joined by Representative Madsen and Representative Borowski as well. Okay, we are going to take the bills in a slightly different order than they appear on our agenda. As soon as I can find my glasses. There we go. All righty. We'll begin by taking up House Resolution 449 by Representative Stender. Is he present? Oh, yes, he is. Do you want to say a few words about your resolution?
Thank you, Chairman. Pretty simply, this year is the 50th anniversary of the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System. Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement System currently manages just over 1,000 different retirement plans, mostly pension plans for local municipalities. These plans range in a number of 1 or 2 member plans, so pretty small municipalities to typically larger 300-400 member plans. So I had the privilege of serving on the Pennsylvania Municipal Retirement Board prior to my service here in the House. I got to represent firefighters for about 6 years, and you know, it's something that's near and dear. We are, you know, for those of you who, we have typically always been a well-funded plan. I don't want to say fully funded because the market changes daily, so I don't ever want to say completely funded, but we do pretty good for all of our members. So, and we've historically, you know, carried a pretty good reputation when it comes to managing retirement plans. So I'd appreciate your support for the resolution.
Thank you very much for that overview. Did Mr. Walker wish to make any additions to that, or we're good? Okay. Then what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to bring it up. Chairman Fritz? I'm sorry, I've already elevated you to chairman.
He looks like it.
He does, yeah.
I could never fill Lee James's shoes.
Neither can I, actually.
Okay, I'll second.
And seconded by Mr. James, Chairman James. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? One, Representative Fink is opposed. Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee.
Our next bill up for today is House Bill 2265 by Representative Donahue. Is there a motion to bring up the bill? Borowski? And a second? Oh, Probst. Okay. Representative Donahue, do you want to say a few words, or do you want John to go right into the analysis?
Just thank you, Chairman.
Sure.
House Bill 2265 would amend Title 8 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes to increase the maximum allowable salaries for council members and mayors and boroughs. The bill itself does not directly increase any official salary. Each borough must establish a salary by ordinance, and any changes to that compensation take effect at the beginning of the official's next term. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Costelli, do you want to add anything to that?
Just that the salaries, as I believe that Bram Saunter mentioned, haven't been increased since 1995. And the bill stipulates that members of council may receive compensation to be fixed by ordinance as follows, and it lists by population, starting with in boroughs with a population of less than 5,000, a maximum of 3,145, and the current was 1,875, and then it goes up to, in a borough with a population of 35,000 or more, a maximum compensation of 8,385. The current is 5,000. The bill also authorizes an alternative optional form of compensation for members of council on a per-meeting basis. Under this form, total annual compensation may not exceed the maximum amount specified in the bill and shall only be payable for duly advertised public meetings in which a member of council participated, and a borough council opting for this method could cause the forfeiture of up to 1/12 of the annual compensation of a member of council for each unexcused absence from a regularly scheduled meeting. And then with regard to the mayor, it stipulates the thresholds going from a population of less than 5,000, a maximum of 4,190, that currently is 2,500, and then up to, in a borough of 10,000 or more, but less than 15,000, a maximum of 12,575. In boroughs with a population more than 15,000, a maximum of 840 per year per 1,000 residents, or a fraction of 1,000. And that would equate to about 29,400 for the maximum population level.
And I should note, few boroughs actually get to that population level. Representative Probst.
I like this bill. As a former mayor, I think the max salary that I could possibly get was $5,000 a year. It was like a 6,000 person borough. But about 2 decades ago, one of the borough council president voted that we would cut our salaries in half. And it's never gone up since because everybody's afraid to do it because then, well, if we do that, then we're spending taxpayer dollars. I think that should be addressed. I don't think that a council should be able to say, well, we want to cut our salaries in half. And I just wish that something could be done about that because it's really unfair. People give so much time and they do deserve, from driving to different committee meetings and everything they do, to make $130 a month. It doesn't even cover their gas, and that's for council members. So I like the bill a lot. I'm a yes on it. I would just like to see it be in stone instead of letting councils be able to say, well, we're supposed to do this, but we're not going to. Do you know what I mean?
I hear you. It has traditionally, by statute, resided with the council to determine compensation, so it's kind of tough to veer from that direction.
Yeah.
You just have to have council people who are wise enough to realize, you really do hard work. You shouldn't have your salaries being cut on council, but I appreciate your point.
And then it's the postcard out on them,
Yeah,
so
exactly,
I
yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any further discussion? Representative Miller.
Thank you. I have a question on page page 2. The question, there's 2 levels of penalty, if you will. One is up to 1/12 of the annual compensation, but then it says, or impose another appropriate penalty for each unexcused absence from a regularly scheduled meeting. So my question is this: if the first provision is 1/12 and that is exceeded, can the or mean 2/12s, 3/12s, 4/12s, 5, or whatever? it seems to be a conflict or confusion in the language. I'm just trying to get some clarification on that. And if it is 1/12, if that's the cap, then what is another, quote, appropriate penalty on line 30?
I'll ask Mr. Costelli to give us an understanding of that passage.
It's not defined in the bill what other appropriate penalty would be.
Well, then, yeah, it just is a curious thing, and I wonder if that should be defined. And then if the other board members are the one deciding that, you could get into some interesting areas, because let's say the 4 members are one party and the other member is not, and let's say the member who's not there, a family member dies and they're absent, but the 4 members say that's unexcused because we determined that that's unexcused. Like what constitutes excused and unexcused as well? I'm sorry to talk with my back to you.
That's quite all right. Representative Donahue, did you wish to make any point on that at this stage?
So yeah, I don't think the or is defined. I'm willing to work with Rep. Miller to define that. But I do think the 1/12 is on a per month basis, so that could go to 2/12, 3/12, and so forth.
Yeah, I think as it stands, it would be the discretion of the council to define it. But if the two of you gentlemen wish to talk about a possible amendment, I'm sure we could entertain it on the floor.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, okay with the voice vote? Or do we want roll call? Okay. Christina, if you'll call the roll, please.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski, Serrato,
Vote by designation, yes.
Donahue. Yes. Fleming,
Vote by designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Vote by designation, yes.
Kazim,
Vote by designation, yes.
Madsen. Monroe.
Vote by designation, yes.
Probst. Yes. Prokopiak. Yes. Salisbury.
Vote by designation, yes.
Sappy.
Vote by designation, yes.
Smith Waddell.
Vote by designation, yes.
Chairman James.
Yes.
Representatives Banta. Yes. Fink. Yes. Fritz. Yes. Jones. Yes. Kuzma. Yes. Miller. Yes. Rader. Yes. Rincavic.
By designation, yes.
Quattro. Wentling. 25.
Okay, the bill passes, will be sent to the floor for consideration. We're going to do a little more out of order for our agenda today. Representative Kasim is expected. She has another meeting that she's at. I should note for the members that her second bill, 1424, is not going to be on the agenda today. It's being held over for possible additional language to be dealt with in the bill itself. So when she arrives, we'll deal with 1423. In the meantime, we have Representative Siegel with us. He has 2 bills on the agenda, House Bill 1976, as well as House Bill 2045. Is there a motion to bring up 1976? Representative Madsen, seconded by Representative Donahue. Okay. Did you want to say a few brief remarks before we go into the analysis?
Thank you, Chairman Freeman. HB 1976 attempts to address our chronic shortfall of housing here in the Commonwealth. By conservative estimates, we're about 100,000 housing units short statewide. And again, I stipulate that that's a conservative estimate. It's likely far in excess of that. And that chronic shortage of housing, that simple imbalance between supply and demand, is one of the determinant factors in why housing is so extraordinarily expensive, why it is so cost prohibitive for young folks to obtain their first house or their first real residence on their own, and even for our seniors to downsize from a larger home when that time comes. I think HB 1976 is a common sense, pragmatic means of making sure that our municipalities can accommodate housing stock in an organic manner where the market most needs it. The legislation would simply stipulate that in areas that are currently zoned for commercial use, one could build multifamily housing by right, mixed-use housing. So the first floor would generally be used for commercial space, whether it be retail, art, a brewery. The idea is to activate those corridors and then create housing above it. I think the time has come for some bold and transformative action. Frankly, I think one of the determinant reasons that we have such a wildly unaffordable housing stock is the fact that for too long, municipalities across the Commonwealth have been deeply exclusionary and unwilling to open their zoning laws to accommodate the demand where it is needed most. I would urge my colleagues to support this legislation. I think, especially post-COVID, this legislation is going to be critical in making sure that we properly right-size and reutilize a lot of structures that are beginning to experience high degrees of vacancy. Specifically our suburban office parks and our office towers that have experienced a tremendous lack of demand as work from home and hybrid work has become a great deal more popular. And so rather than see those buildings fall into receivership, become blighted, or otherwise useless altogether, let's repurpose them so that we can help communities grow and thrive and create housing where it's needed most. Thank you.
Thank you. If you'll stay with us for a minute. John, do you want to give an overview of the legislation? Then we'll take questions from the members.
Okay, the bill, as presently written, would amend Section 603, ordinance provisions of the Municipalities Planning Code, would require municipalities with 5,000 or more residents to allow multi-unit dwellings and mixed-use developments on parcels and lots zoned for commercial use. These lots must have a will-serve letter from both a municipal water system and a municipal sewer system. Applicable municipalities may not implement a zoning regulation requirement for more than one off-street parking space for each unit and accessible parking spaces as required under the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, or an equivalent number of spaces provided through a shared parking agreement.
Okay, we do have a number of members who want to ask questions or make statements. Representative Kuzma. Just his comments. I think you've gone a far afield. It's actually just housing in a commercial zone at this point. I thank the gentleman for his comments. I know there's a couple of members who do wish to speak. We do have serious amendments to go through, so if they would keep their comments kind of concise at this stage on the bill itself, then we'll get to the amendments and have further discussion. Representative Rader.
Yes, I'm not as eloquent as the previous speaker, so I'll just get right to mine. I totally agree. I was a township supervisor. We don't want to take out local control. That's the basis of our Commonwealth. Local control is very important to us. So to take that right away, I think, is definitely a bad idea. I also was concerned about if we want to do something about housing and increasing the number of housing units, I think we have to worry about permitting and DEP and what the restrictions are in that general area, because I know a lot of developers that don't want to get involved in it because it just costs too much. So if we can drive down those costs, perhaps people would be more willing to do it. And this particular bill, taking over a commercial district, I know in my township, we were very concerned where we want to put the commercial district and how big it would be, how small it would be. This usurps that. This would say, okay, you have a commercial district? Well, now you don't have a commercial district. We're going to use it for residential, which would shrink the commercial district that is very important and that we put a lot of time and effort into accomplishing. So for those reasons, I against this. I think we want the local control. We want the local people to make those decisions. We don't want the state stepping in and saying you have to do it.
Thank the gentleman for his comments. I should note, too, this really is just trying to allow for residential to be compatible with a commercial zone. If you look at the way towns were built up until about the 1950s, that was commonplace. There were apartments above stores. There were housing units alongside of a shop. It's a time-honored way in which people lived, and it worked quite well. So I don't think we should be alarmed by the notion of having residential in a commercial zone, nor do I think doing so would negate the commercial zone in any way.
Can I respond to that just for a second? I'll make it very quick. You're right, and in my township we did that. So we had a special commercial zone where we allowed exactly what you're talking about. So the local people can make those decisions and do the right thing. We did. It's already allowed. We don't need a new rule to do it. You can do it if you so choose.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. Representative Borowski, did you want to be recognized for some comments or questions?
Yes, thank you. So, I'm confused as to how this would override local control. I mean, you can still make those decisions as a local zoning board. This just kind of expands the use of it, because I have to be honest, I would be a little concerned if that still wasn't the case, because I do have, where I am, we have several universities in my district, and a lot of times things are renovated and then they put a lot of students in that, and it becomes a concern for neighborhoods. But as far the legislation, I believe, still provides for local control around this. It just provides more opportunity throughout the development district. Am I not correct? Or?
Representative Siegel, you wish to speak to that?
Why don't I address a number of comments made,
Okay.
Chairman?
And then I do want to move on to the amendments.
Yes. No. Let me just address all the sort of comments in one kind of aggregate fashion. As sacred a principle as local control is, there's probably one that's even longer and more sacred, and that is the idea that municipalities at the end of the day are creatures of the state, right? We give it the power, we also take it away. Municipalities have no right to exist except for the fact that the Commonwealth sanctions their existence. And for the most part, we determine their powers, priorities, and responsibilities. We know that well because this legislature has frequently preempted the power of municipalities to take certain actions. I am a former city council person from Allentown. We can't raise our own minimum wage because the legislature determined that municipalities do not hold that right in the Commonwealth. So I would say it's a long-standing principle of this body to determine what municipalities can and cannot do. Now, I will argue that in some instances, local control has value, but in the instance of housing, municipalities have had decades to do the right thing. They have refused to, and they are directly contributing to the housing crisis that we have now. And we are in danger of becoming the next California or Connecticut, where we are so cost prohibitive that residents cannot find a home to live in, and they flee the state for other opportunities. Now, we talk in this body a great deal about growing the economy, making Pennsylvania more welcoming for young folks, making sure that we take care of our seniors. And that goes hand in hand with building a sufficient supply of housing. We cannot grow the economy if the workforce cannot find a place within close proximity to their employment. This legislation, at the end of the day, is designed to address the fact that we have given municipalities ample time to do the right thing, and they have refused. I would direct members to a poll that was just released yesterday in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, they did a comprehensive poll about a variety of housing policies to expand access to housing here in the Commonwealth. And what I would point members to is that that poll revealed broad bipartisan majorities support legislation like this. In fact, over 65% of people support making it easier to build multifamily housing in commercial districts. At the end of the day, I know many of you have probably gotten comments from your municipal officials. You've probably gotten letters from PSATs and PML. But at the end of the day, we are most accountable to the people that send us here, to the voters, to our constituents, who overwhelmingly say this is the type of legislation that they want to see. Leadership is not about picking the low-hanging fruit or choosing the path of least resistance. It is about taking bold and determinative action when it is needed most. And if we want to resolve the housing crisis here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, we are going to have to recognize that at a certain point we need to step in and make sure that housing can be built where it is needed most. At the end of the day, this is frankly a free market argument. We are artificially constraining the market, and this is making sure that we can allow our communities and our state to absorb and organically build housing where it's needed and when it's needed.
I thank the gentleman for his comments and his passion on the issue. Rather than continue the discussion at this stage, I'd like to move on to the amendments, and we can discuss the bill further even after the amendments are dealt with, if that's okay with the members. Our first amendment is Amendment 04507 by Representative Rader. Do you still wish to offer the amendment? Okay. Is there a second? Oh, actually, a motion to move the amendment. Representative Rader. And is there a second? Representative James. Okay.
I'm sorry, who was that?
James was second.
James, thank you.
Rader was first. Okay. Did you want to make any comments, or should we go to Joshua first? Okay.
Amendment A04507, offered by Representative Rader, gives the municipalities the option to implement the provisions of this bill by removing the word shall and replacing it with may.
Okay. Any discussion or comments? Seeing none. With all due respect to my friend and colleague, basically, if we didn't have the bill, it would still be optional. So this just returns us to the status quo and probably undercuts the intent of the bill. But you're welcome to make comments.
Yeah, well, that's what I figured would be the comment. But because I'm concerned about the rights of the township, I think they shouldn't have to be required to do it. They should can do it if they so choose. And my one comment before also was, this kind of ties in with that. I know developers who would gladly build more housing if it didn't cost so much with permitting and the late permitting and all those kind of things. So I think we were looking at one piece of the pie here, but this would allow townships to do it if they so choose or not to do it.
And I should note, too, that the building industry is supportive of this legislation, and the PA Development Chamber of Commerce and Development Council are supportive, in a quest to try and get more affordable housing on the market. Yeah. All right. Roll call. Okay. If we could take the roll, please.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representative.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, no. Sorry. I confused myself. Almost caught me on that one. No.
Representative Borowski. Serrato.
Vote by designation, no.
Donahue. No. Fleming.
Vote by designation, no.
Hambidge.
Vote by designation, no.
Kazim.
No.
Madsen. No. Monroe.
Vote by designation, no.
Probst.
Vote by designation, no.
Prokopiak. No. Salisbury.
By designation, no.
Sappy.
Vote by designation, no.
Smith-Waddell.
Vote by designation, no.
Chairman James.
Yes.
Representatives Banta. Yes. Fink. Yes. Fritz. Yes. Jones. Yes. Kuzma. Yes. Miller. Rader. Rinkavage.
By designation, yes.
Watro. Yes. Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the vote on the amendment fails, so we are next on to our next amendment. The next amendment is Amendment 04701, of which I am the prime sponsor. It's an omnibus amendment, so Is there a motion to bring this amendment up? Procopio, and seconded by Donahue. And I'll ask John to please give us an overview of the omnibus amendment.
Okay, Amendment A, 04701, Chairman Freeman's amendment, omnibus amendment. It would gut and replace the bill into a new Chapter 6 entitled Special Provisions Relating to Ordinances of Title 53 of the Consolidated Statutes. The bill would clarify, or the amendment would clarify, that multiple unit and mixed-use developments would be a permitted use by right in commercial zones. It clarifies that municipalities may not require more than one off-street residential parking space per each unit. And it would add or revise the following definitions. The definition of municipality would be defined as a city, including a city with a home rule charter, a borough, a township, borough, or incorporated town. It adds a definition for dwelling unit and commercial zone. Also revises the definition of multiple unit dwelling, would be changed from at least 5 dwelling units to at least 3 dwelling units, and that would be to comply with the Uniform Construction Code. And then mixed-use development, a definition would stipulate that it would be defined as a development consisting of residential use combined with assembly, business, education, or mercantile use as defined under the PA Construction Code as well. And then also makes technical and editorial changes.
Okay, is there any questions or discussion at this point? Representative Miller.
Just a clarification, on this definition section on page 2 of the amendment, it talks about dwelling unit, mixed-use development, et cetera, et cetera. Would these definitions preempt the definitions that a local municipality may have as per these same things throughout their zoning ordinance?
Not throughout their zoning ordinance, but in the particular consideration of this bill to allow residential units in a mixed-use setting in commercial zones. So it wouldn't eradicate all zoning ordinances in this regard.
So if a municipality had their own definition of dwelling unit or multiple unit dwelling, this, if passed, would or would not supplant the local ordinances, the definition enacted by the local municipality?
I will defer to council, but it's my understanding it would probably just preempt them in the case of where you have a commercial zone and you're applying the standard to allow for residential. Yeah, so it's only pertinent to the focus that this section provides for.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or, Representative Rader?
I'll make it quick, but as you probably know, I'm not crazy about it, but one particular thing, we always had issues with parking in our township, and developers never wanted to do it, and every time they tried to supersede it, they always needed more parking. This only allows 1 per unit, which I think is really low.
As a requirement. That's true. They could build more if they chose to.
Right, they could, but I think you have to require it because the builder never builds more.
You know, a lot gets back to the issue of if you build along more traditional lines, you typically don't need an excess of parking. When we build along the suburban sprawl model, that's when you have all that excess of parking. There's even standards in a lot of zoning ordinances that say if you have X amount of square footage of commercial property, you need X amount of parking spaces. And it has no correlation to the actual need within that.
And I kind of agree with you because I've seen excess parking, but I think this is a little bit too low. That's just my only comment.
Okay. Oh, Chairman James, sorry.
Either way. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wonder if you put a little more flesh on those bones. Lines 18 through 21 talk about a, quote, right. What precisely does that mean?
Let me see if I can find this section.
It's page 1 of your
18
amendment.
through 20.
It's a general rule.
Oh, yeah. In zoning parlance, a use by right is one that's permitted on its face. For instance, if you have a zoning ordinance as it stands now, and they've zoned an area for industrial, anyone who wants to come in and build an industrial component would have a use by right to do so.
So does that mean if we go with a use by right, a multiple family dwelling unit can be put anywhere in a municipality?
No, only in terms of the commercial zone that's being targeted for this legislation. Otherwise, you default to the existing zoning ordinance, which would stipulate where your multi-family dwelling goes.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, let's take a roll call vote on the amendment.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes,
Representatives Borowski.
this time I got it right. Sorry. Borowski, by designation, yes.
Serato.
Designation, yes.
Donahue. Yes. Fleming.
Designation, yes.
Hambidge.
Designation, yes.
Kazim. Madsen. Monroe.
Designation, yes.
Probst.
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak. Yes. Salisbury.
Designation, yes.
Sappy.
Designation, yes.
Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rincavidge. Watro. Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the amendment passes. And we'll move on to the next amendments. I am withdrawing Amendment 04702, but would like to bring up Amendment 04724. Is there a motion to bring up the amendment? Procopio? Kropiak, sorry, I'm still adjusting. And Donahue is a second. Mr. Costelli, would you like to give an overview of this amendment?
Amendment A 04724, as amended by Amendment A 04701, would authorize a municipality to petition the appropriate county or regional planning agency to review a proposed development that is permitted by right under this legislation and the impact it will have on existing infrastructure. If petitioned and upon review, the planning agency shall make a determination regarding the existing infrastructure's capacity for the proposed development. The agency may require the developer to make reasonable improvements to the existing infrastructure as a condition of allowing development. However, the required improvements may only be those that are necessary for upgrading the existing infrastructure's capacity for the proposed development.
Just to explain further, this is an opportunity to address the issue that's been raised by some. If you allow residential development in a commercial area, can they handle it? Can they handle the capacity? And this would allow the county planning agency to be able to review and to determine whether in fact they can or cannot based upon current existence. And if not, what would be needed in order to obtain that. It's sort of a mild version of the concurrency doctrine which is used in Florida. But it would at least try and address those issues that have been raised as a concern. Any Representative Rader?
My only concern is the county has no right to tell the townships what to do, so if they come up with some plan, do the townships still have to, are they still required to okay it because they have to according to the rules, or what if they disregard the county because we don't always listen to the county?
Well, the way it's drafted, it would be a requirement for the type of development that Mr. Siegel is proposing to move forward. And you'll note that it's only asked, they only weigh in when they've been asked by a municipality to examine it. So it's still in their ballpark. Representative Miller.
Thank you. Follow up on that point. So as I read this bill, this amendment, it states that the municipality shall be subject to the review by the county agency. And then it says that the county agency has the authority to force and mandate the improvements.
On the developer.
I'm sorry, what's that?
On the developer.
So, to my knowledge, at least in Lancaster County, the county is advisory, the county planning. So, but your bill would make the planning commission have authority to force a developer to do something?
If they determine that the infrastructure in place is inadequate. And again, keep in mind, it's only at the request of the municipality that they would even venture into that area.
And is there any other place in Pennsylvania where a planning agency, a county, has the authority to force a developer to do something?
Not that I'm aware of, but we are dealing with a subject that has raised concerns about whether the infrastructure that is in place would be adequate. And rather than having that be a sole determination of the municipality, we are allowing the municipality to say, look, you're the county planning agency, make a determination.
Okay, and then the next question is, on line 11, it says the agency may require, so,
They might walk away from the decision.
okay, thank you. Yeah, I think this is not the way to go respectfully, so thank you.
I thank the gentleman. Any other questions or comments? Representative Siegel.
Briefly. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, as we all know, legislation is the art of compromise. I think a number of members have brought up concerns. I believe a lot of them are the result of, I think, unfounded claims made by municipal officials and municipal entities, their municipal advocacy organizations, about infrastructure being overwhelmed by these relatively organic and, I think, gradual expansions of housing in their municipalities. But in the interest of allaying some of those concerns, I think this is a reasonable and pragmatic approach. I think in a majority of instances, if a municipality were to request a comprehensive review of a prospective development, I think the local planning commission is going to say that the infrastructure is sufficient. No single project is going to overwhelm local stormwater and sewer infrastructure. There is this misconception that our communities or our municipalities are full, and I think it is a long-held misconception that needs to be righted. We have plenty of space to accommodate additional folks here in Pennsylvania. I would argue century or decades ago, we were much denser than we are now. Many of our municipalities were much denser than they were now. In fact, many of us reside in municipalities or represent municipalities whose populations have likely shrunk from the pinnacle that they once were at. And so I think the frank reality is I'm happy to make sure that we can redress some of those concerns, but not do it in a way where we add a tremendous amount of Byzantine paperwork and additional bureaucratic hurdles. It's a very simple cursory review of the existing development and making sure that a municipality has peace of mind. As I said, I
As to
think
the infrastructure.
in a majority of
I
instances.
don't mean to cut you short,
yeah.
but we've got a lot of amendments to go through.
Proceed.
Thank you for your comments. Take a roll call.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
By designation, yes.
Serrato,
Designation, yes.
Donahue. Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Ambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim,
Yes.
Madsen, Monroe,
Designation, yes.
Probst,
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak.
Designation, oh, you're here.
He stepped out.
Oh, Designation, yes.
Salisbury,
Designation, yes.
Sappy,
Designation, yes.
Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rinkavage.
Designation, no.
Watro. Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the amendment passes and will be inserted into the bill. I, at this time, want to withdraw Amendment 04725 and go to Amendment 04726. Do we have a motion to bring up the amendment? Kazim and Donahue seconds. Okay, Mr. Castelli, would you please give an overview?
Amendment A 04726, as amended by Amendment A 04701, Chairman Freeman's amendment, would make the provisions of this legislation applicable to a municipality with a population over 5,000 as of the most recent federal decennial census, and which is situated within a county that was reported to have an increase in total population in the most recent census from the immediate prior census.
Thank you. This is designed to try and focus this proposal and its intent to fast-growing communities. Rather than apply it statewide in whole, it would be those communities that are experiencing population growth and are of a larger size, so it kind of narrows the focus of the bill somewhat. Any other discussion?
Please.
We will, oh, I'm sorry. Representative Miller.
Thank you. Some of the arguments that were made earlier about this bill being essential because of the resistance and refusal of local municipalities, and we need to have this, and now to say we're going to limit it seems contradictory. I mean, I understand the intent to limit it to just a few municipalities potentially, but it just seems contradictory to the comments that were said previously. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure the legislative history of this place actually would not be able to be explained without some contradictory points. But I would contend that it's not contradictory, because members have raised concerns about its applicability. And so with this, we're zeroing in on those communities where the need for housing is the highest because of growth of population. So I'm trying to do you guys a favor. Mr. Siegel, very briefly.
Yep, only that this was a compromise. We talked about this together, Chairman Freeman, and ultimately the argument I've made is that housing needs to go where housing is needed most.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a contradictory argument at all. It's about making sure that the market can properly accommodate demand. And if you're in a stagnant or otherwise shrinking community, the intention is not to cram housing there. It's really to put housing in municipalities and counties that are experiencing
Where the demand is
sustained
greatest.
population growth.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, if you'd call the roll, please.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski.
Yes by designation.
Serrato.
Yes by designation.
Donahue. Fleming.
Yes by designation.
Hambidge.
Yes by designation.
Kazim.
Yes.
Yes by designation. I'm sorry. It's okay. Listed as designation.
Madsen. Monroe.
Yes by designation.
Probst.
Yes by designation.
Prokopiak.
Yes by designation.
Salisbury.
Yes by designation.
Sappy.
Yes by designation.
Smith Waddell.
Yes by designation.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rincabbage.
Cabbage by designation, no.
Quattro. Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the amendment has been inserted in the bill, and we'll be moving on to other. I do want to withdraw Amendment 04741 and 04742, as well as all the other amendments that I have posted on this bill. So now we get to the vote on the actual bill in chief.
Wait. But that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Having a bad day.
We're good
I
with
guess.
that.
04727 is what I meant to say. And then the other amendments, 4728, 4729, 4730, and 4731. Thanks for catching.
Good with your original thought, too. Okay.
Okay, we are on the final vote on the bill itself. Is there any further discussion or comment? Seeing none, we'll take a...
Yeah, I
oh,
do.
I'm sorry, Chairman James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be a no vote on this. I'm fundamentally opposed to the concept. The country around the early part of the 20th century started forming zoning boards. Here we are more than 100 years later. I disagree with the maker that the zoning boards are faulty in the use of their judgment. I think they use judgment that applies directly to the places that they live. The possibility that they may be exclusionary may or may not be true, but that goes to motive, in my mind. And local control, again, in my mind, is the right way to go. And I would ask all my colleagues, either side of the aisle, to embrace that thought and go with me as a no vote on the bill. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman for his comments. Mr. Siegel, one brief last word.
Briefly, yes, Chairman. I don't share the sentiments about our local zoning boards. In fact, I think, as history has proven, we've had we have customarily reviewed and even, I think, evolved on the issue of zoning. Traditional Euclidean zoning, I think, we have started to view as widely ineffective and inefficient at building the sort of communities we need. This segregation of economic uses has been, I think, wildly inefficient. We have industrial and commercial use far away from residential, and we spread people out further and further from jobs, opportunity, amenities, and assets. We make it harder for people to walk to school, to their job, to the grocery store, to the gym, to their church. And frankly, that's not how you build a community. And I would argue that if we look back at cities of the past, look at old pictures of Detroit, San Francisco, and evaluate just how much denser they used to be, how much easier it was for people to get to and from their place of employment, to the houses they resided in, and the things that made their communities matter. And we've moved away from that. And frankly, the sins of the past have cost us a great deal. Suburban sprawl, these large suburban subdivisions, expensive infrastructure costs, all of that bill has come due. And there are tremendous ecological and environmental consequences, economic consequences, sociological consequences, even mental health consequences. People who live in walkable, mixed-use, dense communities are by and large healthier, happier, more productive. They earn more money, and frankly, they live more fulfilling lives. This is about correcting the sins of the past and ultimately making sure that not exclusionary in a pernicious or malicious sense, but exclusionary in that we need to open our minds to a variety of housing types and a variety of uses within our own community. And I would leave it with this. The city of Allentown is currently undergoing a form-based zoning code, which is a fundamentally different approach to how we build housing, with an emphasis not so much on what's in the buildings, but what they look like and how they make and how we place make our communities in general. So I would argue that, like anything else, we evaluate, we reassess, and we move forward. What was working 70, 80 years ago is not sufficient today. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman for his comments. With that, we will take up a roll call vote on the bill.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
By designation, yes.
Serato,
By designation, yes.
Donahue. Yes. Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim,
Yes.
Madsen. Monroe,
Designation, yes.
Probst,
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak,
Designation, yes.
Salisbury,
Designation, yes.
Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James. Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rinkavage.
Designation? No.
Watro. Wentling. 1411.
Okay. The bill will be reported from the committee into the floor of the House. We next have another Siegel bill, House Bill 2045. Is there a motion to bring the bill up? Mr. Donahue, seconded by Ms. Kazim. If you can give it very brief, because we are really limited on time, and then I'll turn it over to John for a more technical analysis.
Okay, very, very brief. Thank you, Chairman Freeman. HB 2045 very simply legalizes missing middle housing. There is a variety of housing types that we need to allow for and accommodate in our communities that are somewhere between large multifamily housing, apartment towers or apartment complexes, and your traditional single-family home, and that's where really this bill sort of meets the middle. Duplexes, triplexes, and quads are an effective, I think efficient, but balanced approach to making sure that we build denser, more walkable communities and create the sort of starter homes that young folks might want to buy, or smaller modular homes that older folks might want to downsize to. Again, this makes sure that in areas that are currently zoned single family, we can allow organically a slightly different type of housing stock in a gradual, over time approach to make sure that our communities can absorb that demand where it's needed most. As brief as possible.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Mr. Rader, you still have your amendment? Do you want to offer it?
I do. I'll offer it. No comment, though. It's same as before.
Okay. So you are offering.
You know what? You're all going to be no anyway, so I can withdraw it for time
okay.
if you'd like that.
In the interest of time, thank you. That brings us, we are not going to offer Amendment 4703. I'm withdrawing that. But we will be offering Amendment 4704. I'm sorry, is there a motion to offer the amendment? Sappy, second by Mr. Madsen. And Mr. Castelli, would you give an overview of the omnibus amendment?
Okay, Amendment A 04704, Chairman Freeman's amendment, would gut and replace the bill into a new Chapter 6 of Title 53, Municipalities Generally of the Consolidated Statutes. It also clarifies that developments authorized under this legislation would be a permitted use by right in commercial zones. It defines the term municipality as a city, including a city with a home rule charter, a township, borough, or incorporated town. Dwelling unit would be defined as a single unit providing complete independent living facilities for one or more individuals, including permanent facilities for cooking, eating, living, sanitation, and sleeping. That's an added definition. And it simplifies the definitions for the terms duplex, triplex, and quadplex in order to give the market flexibility in designing such homes so long as they contain the specified number of dwelling units and are separated by a horizontal or vertical wall. It also changes the effective date of the act from 60 days to 180 days.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the amendment? No? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll take a roll call vote on that.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
By designation, yes.
Serato,
Designation, yes.
Donahue,
Oh, designation, yes.
Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim. Mattson. Monroe,
Designation, yes.
Probst,
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak. Salisbury,
Designation, yes.
Sappy,
Designation, yes.
Smith Waddell.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. I got into a rhythm there. I apologize.
Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James. No. Representatives Banta, Fink, Fritz, Jones, Kuzma, Miller,
They do.
Rader, Rinkavage,
By designation, no.
Watro, Wentling. 1411.
Okay. The amendment passes. I will withdraw Amendment 04734, and that brings us to Amendment 04735. Is there a motion to bring it up? Kropiak? And second? Second? Second by Sappy. John, you want to give a brief overview?
Okay, Amendment A 04735, as amended by Amendment A 04704. This is similar to the amendment offered to House Bill 1976. It would authorize a municipality to petition the appropriate county or regional planning agency to review a proposed development that is permitted by right under this legislation and the impact it will have on existing infrastructure.
Okay, any comments or discussion? Seeing, oops, I'm sorry, Representative Kazim.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to know, when the County Planning Commission is taken in review, is this just more so that municipality, or is the municipality allowed to at least provide, what their infrastructure will look like? I'm just thinking about what.
They would only act to determine, the county that is, would only act to determine whether the infrastructure in place is sufficient if they've been petitioned by the municipality to make an assessment of that.
So if the county then says no, then what happens from there?
No, the municipality would have to seek the assessment by the county.
By the county?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
The county can't do it on its own in this regard. It's got to be something petitioned by the municipality.
Okay, that's what I was trying to fit. Thank you.
Sure. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's take a roll call vote. Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
Designation, yes.
Serato,
Designation, yes.
Donahue,
Designation, yes.
Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim, Mattson, Monroe,
Designation, yes.
Probst,
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak. Yes. Salisbury,
Designation, yes.
Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta, Fink, Fritz, Jones, Kuzma, Miller, Rader, Rinkavage,
Rinkavage, by designation, no.
Watro, Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the amendment is approved. I am withdrawing Amendment 4736, 4737, and 4739, which brings us to Amendment 4740. Is there a motion to bring up the amendment? Moved by Mr. Prokopiak? I'm sorry, I keep butchering your name. I apologize. I'll get it better, I promise. Second by Representative Kazim. John, do you want to give us an overview?
Amendment A 04740, as amended by Amendment A 04704, would make the provisions of the legislation applicable to a municipality with a population of over 5,000 of the most recent federal decennial census, and which is situated within a county that was reported to have an increase in total population in the most recent census from the immediate prior census.
Okay, any discussion or questions? It's identical to the last version of this that we touched on. Guess I'll take a roll call.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
By designation, yes.
Serato,
Designation, yes.
Donahue,
Designation, yes.
Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim. Mattson. Monroe.
Designation, yes.
Probst.
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak. Salisbury.
Designation, yes.
Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rinkavage.
Designation, no.
Quattro. Wentling. 1411.
Okay, the amendment becomes part of the bill. That leaves us with, yep, withdrawing the rest of the amendments on the bill. So we have a vote then on the bill itself. Roll call vote? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Rader, of course.
I'll make it brief. As townships, we spend a lot of time determining where the different zones are in our municipalities. Single family is very important to all of us, and to usurp that right and all of a sudden put multifamily in where single family, they assume they're always going to be single family, and now they're not. I just think it's wrong. We shouldn't be doing that.
Thank the gentleman for his comments. Half a minute, because we have one more bill to go through.
Okay, all right, thank you. Look, at the end of the day, colleagues, this bill is about freedom. It's about the freedom to live in the community that you want to live. It's about making sure that the children we educate in our communities aren't priced out of the very communities they're raised in. It's about making sure that families, seniors, singles, individuals have the choice to live where they want to live. And the way that we zone currently prohibits and gets in the way of those decisions. I concur that there's a variety of other things we need to do to address housing affordability. I share the same concern about permitting and a design review process and all the things that stand between the certainty of a developer in building and the acquisition of that land. It's a tremendous risk. But I would argue that that is no less an imposition on a local community and a local government to restrict or change the way that they design and permit the process than this is. And if we can determine that a municipality is inordinately holding up the process of building new developments through the permitting process, I think it's no less just to say that they're also holding up development through the zoning process. I think we need to make sure that we are making it faster and easier and speedier to build in the Commonwealth. This is one part of the equation. The design review process and permitting is another one. But at the end of the day, this gets to the heart of what I think we all want to do, which is make sure that our families have the freedom to chart their own course, to live in the house they want to live in the community that they choose for themselves, and we have to act boldly now before we become a cost-prohibitive state. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I guess we'll,
I got one.
Representative, Chairman James, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would ask all the colleagues here to vote no on the final vote of this bill. I am in favor of the time-honored tradition of electing local people to zoning boards. I think they've done a fine job in my experience, and I believe we should restore the trust that we have had in them for over 100 years. So please vote no.
Thank you for your comments. One brief comment by the chair, too. This does get at the heart of something which, since the onset of the 1950s and the application of single-use zoning, we've lost sight of. There was a time when we had more traditional towns where an extended family could live in the same neighborhood. The parents who had done well had a single-family home. Their son coming out of college could find a half-double in the neighborhood just around the corner from their parents. And grandma could live in an apartment house that was just 2 blocks away. The application of single-use zoning has in itself created an exclusionary process, maybe unintentionally, but that's been the end result. So even though there is a bit of controversy on this, I do think it's a way of moving us back to a time-honored practice of allowing extended families to be able to live in the same neighborhood. And that comes from the choice of housing that's available. But with that, we'll take a roll call vote.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski.
Designation, yes.
Serrato.
Yes.
Donahue.
Yes.
Fleming.
Designation, yes.
Ambidge.
Designation, yes.
Kazim. Mattson. Monroe.
Designation, yes.
Probst.
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak. Salisbury.
Designation, yes.
Sappy. Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James.
No.
Representatives Banta. Fink. Fritz. Jones. Kuzma. Miller. Rader. Rinkavage.
By designation, no.
Quattro. Wentling. 1510.
1510?
Oh, did I do that wrong? Oh, sorry, 1312. Thank you.
1312, the bill will be reported to the floor for consideration. Congratulations, Representative. That brings us to our last bit of business. I realize the clock is very close to us being on the floor. Hopefully, they've given us a little more time. I'll get to that. There are two bills for Representative Kazim. We are going to take up 1423. 1424 we're going over for today, as there is a need to work on some of the language in that. Is there a motion to bring up 1423? Moved by Mr. Prokopiak, seconded by Mr. Madsen. And Representative Kazim, did you want to make a few brief remarks before we get a technical explanation of the bill?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chairman Freeman and Chairman James and the entire local government committee. I sit before you today to encourage you to consider House Bill 1423. This is a vital piece of legislation designed to protect the interests of our communities when it comes to the selling of public water systems. The privatizing of public water systems is a topic that often surfaces when dealing with distressed municipalities. However, the ramifications of such decisions extend far beyond the borders of the municipality in distress. Consider the Chester Water Authority, which provides essential water services to 200,000 people across 37 municipalities. This water system does not only affect the residents of Chester, but also impact numerous other communities. This is exactly why this legislation we are discussing here today is so critical. The ripple effects of selling in one municipality can thus create waves of change, and not only always for the better, but in many others as well. House Bill 1423 proposes a simple yet powerful safeguard requiring that 75% of the municipality's water service agreement with a utility owned by a distressed municipality must approve the sale of the utility through a resolution. This ensures that all those that are impacted by such a significant decision have a voice. There is clear data that supports the necessity of this legislation. Households served by private-held utility companies typically pay 59% more of their water services than those served by publicly held utilities. This stark difference highlights the potential financial burden that can be placed on our residents. Water, a basic human necessity and a right, should remain affordable and accessible. Now, I can say that this is a topic that I'm sure all of us here can continue to go on and on and on about. I know that there's arguments both for and against privatization in various contexts. However, the fundamental principle that I'm bringing forth to each and every one of you here today is that residents should have a say in decisions that significantly affect their daily lives and their tax dollars. House Bill 1423 ensures that the voices of all residents through their elected municipal officials are heard and respected. By supporting House Bill 1423, we are not only protecting our constituents, but we are also reinforcing due process. It is our duty to ensure that decisions of such magnitude are not made in isolation by distressed municipalities, but are instead subjected to broader collective approval. Now, I do want to just add, Chairman, before I end off, that even despite in my district with what's going on with the potential sale and us being under Act 47, I just want everybody to also sit back and think about their local communities and where you guys can be 5, 10, 15 years from now. We just never know. We can't predict the future. And there's a lot of municipalities across the state currently either have loans that are still right now struggling to pay off, and we don't know what that can look like. So we want to make sure that before a decision is made across this Commonwealth, not just only in my district, that there is due process, that the residents are heard, that they know what is going to happen with their tax dollars, that before we make any decision, that this does transpire. I'm bringing it on a state level because I do believe that this needs to happen. I believe that there has been other decisions that have been made around this, And honestly, it's not always in the best interest, and we can't say what worked or what doesn't. But what I can say is at least if we make sure that we have some things and protocols in place, we can at least make sure that we take in every step possible just to make sure that the constituents are protected across our state. Thank you, Chairman Freeman, Chairman James, and to the entire committee. Thank you again for hearing me out.
Thank you. There are a number of members who want to be recognized to either ask questions or make comment. Representative Rader.
Once again, I look at this as a local control issue. If a township or borough wants to sell their water system, I don't know how we force them to keep operating it. As a township supervisor, and the decisions I made in my township, if I had to go to the surrounding municipalities to get the okay, they wouldn't okay anything. So it would be very difficult to get that done. What I see with water systems, and I help run a water system, a lot of times municipalities don't do the infrastructure, don't do the capital expenses that they have to do. So they get to a point where they have to sell it or they have an issue. And also the new regulations that are coming along. They just can't afford to do it all the time. So the only out they have is to sell it. And if you're a distressed community, it could actually help you in other parts of your budget if you do sell the water system. So I can't see forcing them to keep running something that they don't want to run and probably can't afford to run. If we have issues with what the water companies charge, we should look to the PUC and maybe have some legislation to change what they do, because they're the ones that determine the price of the water. So if they deem it proper, then maybe we should be going to them and saying, hey, you got to take a look at how you figure this out. It's not just the water companies. They can ask for the raise, but they don't have to get it. The PUC determines that, and maybe we want to reform them. Thank you.
Just as a point of clarification, this only pertains to Act 47 distressed municipalities who are in receivership. And the receiver themselves can make the decision without consulting the local government.
So then why do we need three-quarters of the surrounding community?
I'm sorry?
Then why do we need 75% of the surrounding community if they can do it themselves?
Well, because we're trying to create a situation where people who utilize that service and who are ratepayers of the water.
Right, and that's what I'm against. Because I think this is just for one particular one. Could be amended on the floor to include everybody, or they could look at it differently.
I'm sorry, my point is that it's not the people who own the water facility, not that municipality that makes the decision, it's the receiver. And so they can make a decision even if the municipality says, we really don't want to sell the water authority.
Okay, that's fine. I'm still against the bill because I think they should be able to make that decision without having someone else telling them what to do.
But it's not them making the decision, it's the receiver.
Right, the receiver should be able to make that decision.
Okay. Representative Kazim.
Thank you so much, Rep, for bringing out your point, and I do understand that. The reason why I'm also putting these things in place is because there isn't many communities that have really went through receivership. So we don't really have many legislations in place, which is why, excuse me, I brought up about thinking about our communities in the future. Whether we think it's never going to happen, we just don't know. So even when the receiver comes in, sometimes the receiver may not be from your local community. Sometimes the receiver may not be fully aware. Their job is to just put the community in a better financial position. However, it may not always work in the best interest of the communities. So when we say, okay, it's just going to help selling it off, we give them a percentage, does that really help the taxpayers in the next 2, 3, 4 years if their rate is going to be increased? It's distress for a reason. A lot of things take in account with that. So I'm just saying to say that, if you want to definitely have a conversation and if, moving forward, especially if it gets to the floor, I would love to have that with you on what that looks like. But even with the receiver, sometimes it's not more so just the input of the local officials. When a receiver is in place, imagine Chairman James brought up earlier about local control. They have no local control when it's under receivership. So it doesn't matter what the township commissioners say. It doesn't matter what the borough mayor say. It doesn't matter what the city mayor say. The receiver can come in and make a decision for all of them, and that's how it works right now. So I'm just making sure that there is due process so all of those voices are taken into perspective. That's why I brought this.
Thank you. Representative Fritz, followed by Chairman James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe it's within the role of state government to compel, or for that matter, impede business decisions. I believe that there are free market principles that guide those decisions. And I'm going to move to a more of a macro thought. I'm new to this committee, but I'm not new to Harrisburg. And what I find that with this committee, this is the front lines of big government versus small government. and I'm proud to espouse the virtues of small government. So with that, I'll stand down with my comments, and I will be a no. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Chairman James?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Kazim, for remembering what I said. I thought that was pretty cool. I would like to turn to page 2 and address the issue of the 75% and the receiver. It seems to me that you could have one or the other, but not both. You're asking the receiver to make the decision, but you're limiting him or her or them to 75% of the municipalities. How can that be? How can we do that?
Well, the receiver is already appointed by the state, so, or by the judge, so the receiver's there. The receiver does still make the decision, but what I'm asking is that before this receiver can even make that approval or request to say, we're just selling it, that they do take an account of 75% of the municipalities under that system, because the receiver is not the receiver for all the other municipalities, it's just for one. So that's what I'm basically just asking, is that he or she just takes the voices of other municipalities that are going to be affected by this one decision for this one municipality.
Thank you for your response.
That's all I was.
Do you have some thoughts?
No, I think she covered the points well. Okay. Any further discussion before we move to a vote? Call the roll, please.
Chairman Freeman.
Yes.
Representatives Borowski,
By designation, yes.
Serrato,
Designation, yes.
Donahue,
Designation, yes.
Fleming,
Designation, yes.
Hambidge,
Designation, yes.
Kazim,
Yes.
Madsen, Monroe,
Designation, yes.
Probst,
Designation, yes.
Prokopiak,
Designation, yes.
Salisbury,
Designation, yes.
Sappy, Smith Waddell.
Designation, yes.
Chairman James. Representatives Banta, Fink, Fritz, Jones, Kuzma, Miller, Rader, Rincavic,
Designation, no.
Watro, Wentling. This time it's 15-10.
The bill passes and will be sent to the floor. Congratulations. This concludes our meeting. I thank you for your patience as we walked through a lot of bills and amendments today, but I think it was a productive day. We stand adjourned.